Twisted Builds prototype Speeduino update. I actually just got back from vacation today, and that's why I haven't messed with it any further. Some of you guys that follow me on social media on Facebook or Instagram saw that I got the version 2.0 assembled. That's actually what's left of the 1.0 after I depopulated some things because I took the connector off and the MOSFETs and stuff off that board and put them on the new board, unlike the wideband controller and stuff. So I took like all the expensive stuff off that board and put it on this board, and the cheaper stuff I just bought over, like the resistors, capacitors, stuff like that. Because they're already like cut and everything for that one. I wasn't messing with desoldering every single one of them. I just got all new and started over. So anyway, this is what is going to be the new Speeduino board. I got 10 of these prototypes made because it was only a $5 difference between having 5 and 10 made up. So I got 10 ordered, got them in, got all the parts in, and built the first prototype, or I guess that'd be the second prototype because that was the first. There will be some board revisions I've already found out. This one actually works though. There's one issue with this, and unlike the other board where there's a whole bunch of ground issues, this one has one issue, and it's not going to really matter for at least the first couple that I'm going to build, but it's going to be, I got to change the board design, just one part of it. The trace for, it'd be that pin right there for this is the Spartan 2 OEM wideband controller that's going to be on board these units. That pin right there goes to a jumper, which is that one right there. It says wideband power, JP12. There's a trace on the board that goes from there to there. The trace isn't wide enough. I messed up on my, it was the first time I was using KiCad, and it was just an honest mistake. The board trace, even though it's connected and given power, it's going to burn out the second you hook a wideband to that. So my fix for at least my prototype is going to be, I haven't done it yet, but it's going to be solder an external wire between that pin and the the wideband switch pin, jumper pin, and just super glue it to the bottom of the board. That'll give it enough juice capacity that I don't have to worry about it. So that these 10 boards, if people want them, I'm gonna tell them like, hey, if you want an wideband controller, this is what I'm doing. But before I sell it like that, I'm gonna test these first. After the first 10, which I may even just keep the boards for myself and not sell the first 10 unless they want them without the wideband controller, and then just sell ones that are perfectly fine. But as I said, this one, that's the only issue I found. Every other thing, every other trace is good. I checked every single part of this board because I learned my lesson with the first one. Because the first one I soldered a whole bunch of components to and found out 5 critical grounds weren't working that I tested, and I stopped testing at that point because it just drove me nuts. I just redid everything. So every single trace on this board has been continuity tested to make sure it lined up with my schematic and lined up with the PCB board. And as I said, I just found out while I was doing all that one trace is not wide enough. Everything else is great. It's got nice wide, I don't know if you can see there, it's nice wide, like these 4 right here are your injector MOSFETs or transistors. And you can see the nice wide board traces for those because I made the setup to where it should be able to handle the Bosch 210s without issue. Before I claim it for sure, I would love to find someone that would be willing to test this on a Bosch 210 equipped car, or maybe see if I can get a set of injectors on loan to try them. I may even just buy them because I need to get a set anyway to test it out with, but everything on this board should be able to handle that. What else? Anyway, go on to testing. Hopefully my laptop doesn't die. We are going to, I've got my power supply, my benchtop power supply set to 12 volts, and you'll see the amperage go up whenever I plug this in. But right now it's pretty much my battery, and this is the power connector. As I said, nice amp seal connectors. Love these things. Absolutely love them. I think it's you push these 2 little white pieces out, and then you can move the pins in and out. You don't even pull them out completely. You just move the white retainer, and then you press the pins in and out. And it's all nice and weatherproof. I don't know if you can, let me see if I can get in the back here. Let's focus. There we go. All nice and weatherproof. So Nice heavy duty. These are, I think, 14 gauge wire going into it for power on ground. And these are like 20 gauge. It's the connectors themselves are rated for 14 to 20 gauge wire. So I got all that, and I almost think I got some pins here somewhere. I could show you for the video. Yep, here we go. Oh, came out of the bag. So here are the pins for it. So same kind of focus. There we go. Same kind of pin that's used on like GM stuff. I mean, they're an amp seal pin. So both connectors total, because there's two connectors. There's a big one that'll have wires populated into it, and then there's a small one. Both connectors total up to 60 pins. I'll be selling the units with 80s. That way you get 20 mistakes. I figure that's an honest number, and that way if you ever want to change things up, you'll have 20 extra pins. If you need more, I can sell you more. Not a big deal. But on to testing, I'm going to make sure that my wires are separated and not touching each other, because that would be bad. Excuse the mess. I've been in, A, I was on vacation, as I said, and B, this has just been a madhouse trying to get everything working, and a creative mind is kind of just messy. I need to clean this all up. But anyway, so we're going to plug the unit in, and I want you to notice these 4 LEDs, 1, 2, 3, 4. If don't hold me to this, I'm pretty sure those are the ignition outputs. So whenever the board powers up, it is going to send a quick little blump to the ignition coils. It's not going to be any kind of issue whatsoever. My MS2 does this all the time. I've actually watched it on an oscilloscope. Not an issue whatsoever with durability or anything, but you'll notice, and that's actually going to be a key point to this. So when I plug this in, see him blimp? Okay. Now the key part of this whole deal is, or the cool part I should say, Speeduinos, and there's other, don't hold me that I'm not the first one to do this, I'm just implementing it on my boards. Speeduinos are known because they use an Arduino Mega platform. Whenever you hook up the USB cord to a computer, they reset. If you do it while the engine's running, they'll shut the computer off and start all over, which means the engine dies. What I have done to prevent that is they have Arduino Mega has a reset circuit. If you read the AVR 20 or 60 document, I can't remember, 40. Anyway, I could post a link to it if you guys need it. If you read the document that comes with the AVR reset protection on it, it gives you a diagram, like a circuit diagram, what to do to keep it from resetting whenever you do this. I did that. So pretty much, if you look here, you'll see boot protect on JP10, which is right there. So that is a jumper. What's going to happen is that if that jumps like that, anytime you hook power to this, it'll like ignition switch power. It'll do that. But watch those LEDs as I plug it into, and just to prove, offline. It's in hand. I'm gonna see if I can do this all one-handed while I'm holding the camera. And there we go. See? No blimpy. And look. Now I'm connected. So, right now, because I don't have any air intake temperature, right? Yeah, intake temperature or coolant temperature sensors, they're pegged because they're not getting a ground input. So that's that. I am simulating the throttle right now. Like, for instance, the map is 98 kPa. If I take, and I'm going to just hold this up and we'll literally blow into that map port. Watch. So it's working. If I put vacuum to it, it pulls down. If I put pressure to it, it goes up. So that part's working just fine. Now, hello. I don't have it plugged in. So, TPS, I'm going to start, just literally it's a potentiometer that I use for my dial boost stuff. I just wanted to test at least that part of it out. So, I'm just spinning it to the potentiometer, and you can see I can go all the way up to 100%. It goes into flood clear because it's not, the engine RPM's not going, and it comes right back down. So we'll pick 50, and all the way back down to 0. So those two are definitely working. Now, I have bought a Speeduino simulator. It's a benchtop simulator that simulates RPM input and TPS input and whatever else inputs. So that way you can test your outputs like ignition and other odds and ends. So I bought one of those. It's in the mail. It should be here this week. Worst case scenario, it's here next week. I am bench testing this with that Speeduino simulator before it goes into the car. Main reason for that is just because of the fact I'm putting it in my Firebird. The Firebird runs and drives currently, and I would like to make sure that this is definitely good to go before I put it in my car. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm running this on my car because I wholly believe in this product. I really, really believe these are going to be the best thing for the price because it's way more features than a Micro Squirt. It's not, as I say this, it's not the level of like a Mega Squirt 3. It doesn't have individual fuel trims. It doesn't have sequential ignition and fuel and stuff like that. But this I'm right now for the entry level pricing, which I plan on keeping for around 6 months, is literally the same. You can get in the door with this at the same price as you can get in the door with a Mega Squirt, or sorry, a Micro Squirt. You can't touch a Mega Squirt 2, or 1, which I don't know why you'd run a 1 anymore, but you can't touch a Mega Squirt 1 assembled for this price whatsoever. And this one, I'm selling right now. I have all the pricing listed on my Facebook post, and I think I'll put it on my website if I haven't already. I believe the pricing's $330 without the wideband controller, and I can't remember the price points after that. But it's been a long day. But anyway, if I don't have them on my website, I will throw them on my website. They are all on my Facebook Twisted Builds page and my personal Facebook profile about the price points for these things once I get them all together. For entry level, I'm going to keep that for 6 months, and then the price will go up just because of the fact that I'm doing these absolutely as cheaply as possible to get the name out, and then the price is going to have to go up because I'm going to start paying my employees to build them and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, as I said before, well, maybe I haven't in a YouTube video. We'll start over. 2.5 bar map goes up to 22 psi. Onboard wideband O2 sensor controller. It's a Spartan 2 OEM. It's for the Bosch 4.9 sensors. All the wires are brought right out to the controller, so you can make a nice wiring harness going to your wideband. You're good to go at that point. It has IX stepper motor. Unlike the Micro Squirt, where you have to buy special crap, this will run the LS 4-wire stepper idle motor control motors. No issue whatsoever, and control them just fine. Where like Micro Squirt, you don't have any control unless you buy additional box or features or whatever. This has it on board. Each one is going to, I think it's right, yeah, Bluetooth header, right there. So that Bluetooth header is going to have a 4-wire hookup to a Bluetooth module, which I think I have. Let me turn off the, once it turns off, I flip the switch, there we go. Let me see if this has got one in it. No, that does not. Bluetooth, there it is. So there's a Bluetooth module inside this bag here, alright? So those wires will get hooked up to Bluetooth. It'll have Bluetooth on board. That will allow you to use like MS Droid or Shadow Dash, I think is made by Tuner Studio, on a Bluetooth tablet, and you can hook right into that and go. I also have a couple different options. So if you want to run the Bluetooth and have USB connectivity at the same time, you will have to put a diode on board. And I'm going to make it to where you can order it with or without that diode. If you want to run both at the same time, you'll have to have the diode in. If you don't, I can't remember. Oh yeah, there's a Bluetooth switch. So wires coming out here, it's going to be 2 wires. You're going to have to hook up to a toggle switch to turn Bluetooth on and off. Turn Bluetooth on. If you don't have that jumper in there, you will not be able to hook up to the USB while you're running the Bluetooth. If the Bluetooth switch is off, you can hook up with that, but the Bluetooth won't work. If you want both of them to work at the same time, you'll throw that little diode jumper in there, and boom, you can run Bluetooth on your tablet while you're running the Speeduino software on a computer, data logging. You can look at your tablet dash all at once, happy dory, fine to go. It's one of the things that absolutely drives me up a wall with my Mega Squirt 2 on my Firebird, because it's one or the other. I cannot right now, because it's an RS-232 output where you have to have like a whole special adapter deal to go to a USB. You either hook it up to the USB adapter, hook it up to your laptop, and it completely kills the tablet dash, or you hook up the RS-232 wire connector to a Bluetooth dongle type transmitter type deal, and then you got the Bluetooth dash, but you can't have both at the same time. I was like, I'm building my own PCM. Gosh darn it, I want it to do what I want. I've got it set up to do both. Right now, I just have that out for the time being because there's no Bluetooth hooked up to it. Once I go in the car and start playing with things, I will get it on video of it all working. That jumper will be there. Bluetooth switch. So say for instance, you're not wiring a Bluetooth switch to this, but you want Bluetooth power, or you want the Bluetooth to work, and you're perfectly fine with not having both at the same time, or you're going to have both at the same time, you just don't want the switch, and you're already putting the Bluetooth jumper in there to make it all work at the same time. You just put a jumper on there, it ignores the switch, the Bluetooth's on all the time, you can't shut it off whenever the computer's on. Not a big deal. I put that switch there just in case people don't want to wire like a 2-wire switch to run their Bluetooth. They want it on constantly. Put a little jumper there. It all works. That jumper and that jumper will make the Bluetooth work, the USB work all at the same time. No one gives a crap. Works just fine. So, ignition outputs. I followed a lot of the Speeduino V4.3.2 board schematics. So, for instance, if you put a VR conditioner on board, which this one did not get the pretty much the socket, the IC socket for it. Like you can see the 2 sockets right there and that socket right there underneath the IC. The ones I sell to customers will. I did that just to save me a little bit of change. And I'm on this board particularly, it's never going to get like hooked up to an engine that, well, at least that I'm aware of, that is going to need a VR conditioner for like a 2-wire crank sensor. It might at one point. Right now, I don't foresee that happening, so that was not needed. Most LS stuff won't need that. That will be for like people who want to buy this board, because it is right now like I'm gearing everything towards an LS engine. You don't have to run it on an LS though. You can run this on big block Chevy, small block Ford, big block Ford, Mopar, whatever. It's not dead set that this is an LS based board. I did make it to where you can like switch things out. So if you switch the crank and cam outputs over from Hall effect to VR and put a VR conditioner on there, which I'll also sell, you can make this hook up to a 2-wire cam and crank signal input. You're good to go. These 4 right here, or these 2 right here, JP4 and 5, are the 5-volt pull-ups for the cam and crank sensors. For an LS, you have to have them. Not everything's going to have them. You'll have to follow the Speeduino wiki to figure out what you need. LS stuff needs them. They're there. Crank and cam diode inputs. Those are for mainly the 24X motors. Reason being, 24X LS motors run a 12-volt crank and cam sensor input. You cannot run 12-volt into this because it will fry the these 2 ignition ICs. It'll just completely make them melt. So because of that, you need, well, it might not make them melt, but anyway, it's not good for them. You need to be able to diode input the crank and cam sensors. What that does is it allows the pull, like for instance, whenever the sensor goes high, which will be up to 12 volts, that diode will block the 12 volts coming in, but it will allow the 5-volt pull-up. So instead of pulling it up to 12 volts, it'll pull it up to 5 volts. Now, whenever the sensor goes to ground, that 5-volt pull-up's on like a 10,000 ohm resistor. So the signal will get pulled down to 0, and then up to 5 because of the diode input and so on and so forth. So both cam and cranks got them. But if you're running like a 58X motor on this or something else where it's got 5-volt input, you can go switch from yes to no on both those jumpers. You're good to go. What else we got here? Oh yes, so future knock sensor input for whenever speedy knock comes into play. That's ready to go. Wideband power diode. I've got it turned off right now because I already told you about having to do that one jumper. You can see that one trace right there. It's that trace right there. It's just absolutely thin. It needs to be nice and thick like this one right there. So because of that, I don't have the wideband powered up right now. I need to add the external wire to it. Then I'll put that jumper in. And JP13, honestly can't remember what that's for at the moment. I will have to update that in a future video. JP14, as it says, a knock. Then you got USB header. Pretty much what that's going to do. I plan on selling these eventually that are water resistant. I wouldn't say they're waterproof because of I don't think I'm going to be able to make everything submersion proof. However, I eventually want to make a case to where I can hit it with a pressure washer repeatedly and on like a test stand engine and it runs fine and this thing doesn't care. In order to do that, you still have to have USB connection to that plug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the case longer. I'm going to get a 90-degree, because that's like a printer cable, a USB, I want to say A, but I could be wrong. I can get a 90-degree version of that. Cut it, splice it, put it onto that jumper header right there. Which that jumper header runs right into these two connectors. I think it's one of the two, I can't remember. Comes out 4 wires. You take those 4 wires out, you splice it into another USB cable, nice and clean with nice heat shrink, and then you can go to your computer. Kind of like what Microsquirt does with their audio cable style jack, but instead this will be for USB. That will allow you to get a waterproof connection because that will all be within the case through the waterproof connector and out to, you know, however long you want to make the wires, and then hook back onto this end style of USB cable, and you can plug it into your computer and go. So, in other units that just don't want that and want the Microsquirt style, you know, USB connector or whatever, you can do that too. My first couple units, because I've already made the case, I'm not worrying about that. This has, I can't remember, I should have brought the list down. It has enough pressure inputs for, like, I'm going to give you an example. My Firebird is going to use that as the map sensor, at least initially. I may switch it out, switch all this out. But right now it's going to use that. It has the ability to run that. I'm going to run a 1-bar barometric pressure correction sensor. Because as you saw, like, the pressure in the house right now is 98 kPa. So, it's not a true 100. I'm at a little bit of an elevation where I'm at. And I'm going to get a 1-bar GM map sensor, which you can find in practically anything. You could use the factory LS 1-bar map sensor for this, and just tie it somewhere in the car where it's not going to get a bunch of dirt and grime and garbage into it, and it will give the barometric pressure that's outside input into that. So run that, run the barometric pressure correction. I'm going to run a fuel pressure sensor input, and I believe I got enough extra to do 2 pressure sensor inputs, like up to 7-bar, 5-bar, whatever I decide, for exhaust pressure. That way I can do the map sensor, the barometric, fuel pressure logging, and the 2 back pressure sensors, all ready to go goodness. 2 stages of nitrous control, well, nitrous relay control. It won't run the solenoids directly, you'll have to run a relay. But it'll run like a fuel and nitrous solenoid relay. Up to 2 stages. It has an arming switch input. It has 2 wires out for it. Well, technically it's 1 wire and a sensor ground. It'll be included in the wiring schematic for it. But you got those wires coming out for an arming switch. That way you can arm it and, you know, turn it on and off. Whenever you arm it, if you can do a wet shot where it'll control the nitrous fuel and nitrous, you know, itself, or you can do a dry shot, which is just nitrous only, and then add the fueling through the engine, and it's got all the ability to do that. And actually, I can show you. eventually I'm going to get nice, you know, on-screen recording. I don't plan on editing this video, so we're just going to completely go like this and just take a video of my screen. So, 2 stages of nitrous control. Nitrous is armed when pin is high, which is just how I have the board set up. Don't worry about that. But like minimum coolant temp, minimum TPS for activation, maximum KPA, and leanest AFR. That's all safety features. So that way, for instance, which the minimum TPS and stuff, I need to adjust that a little bit. Minimum TPS should be like at least 80%, so that way it doesn't activate unless the throttle is above that percentage. And you can adjust all that. Minimum coolant temp, it's 6 one, my half dozen other, how you want to run that. It is a nice safety. Maximum map. So if, say for instance that this has only got 2.5 bars, so 250 is maximum. But say for instance you're running a boosted setup with nitrous like my Firebird, but you don't want to overboost. This does have overboost protection, but even with that, say for instance the boost is still coming too high, you can take that and say set it to 200. And if it gets above 200, it shuts the nitrous off. When it gets below 200, it turns it back on. So, and ignore these because I haven't set any of stage 1 or 2 up yet. But, and you can see all the pins are the same. I need to change the tune up a little bit yet. But for instance, you know, stage 1, engage, or minimum engage, maximum engage, fuel adder, ignition retard. It's all there, all ready to go. All the settings, as I said, still need adjusted, which I'll do. And I will be providing starter tunes, pretty much the tune-up that goes, yeah, the battery's about to die. The startup tune that goes into the Firebird will be available for the masses, and I'll provide all the specs on the Firebird. So that way, this is my other, that's actually the Firebird tune-up right now. But, that way everyone will be able to get their LS running and driving if it's something similar, or at least get to where you can start it and, you know, tune it and adjust it from there. But that is my Speeduino update. As I said, once the simulator comes in, I'm going to get some better video of all the simulation working with the computer and all that fun stuff, and I'm going to start making videos of installing it into the Firebird. I plan on that happening hopefully next week. So I want to keep the car running through the weekend. I got family coming to visit that haven't seen the car running in a while. I just want to make sure it stays running. Because, as you know, prototyping, if this doesn't work, you know, I'd like to, for this one last weekend, I like to have it running. And that way, if it's not running while I'm fixing it, it's not a big deal. I'm not in a huge rush. But everything so far appears like it's going to work just fine. But that simulator will tell me 100% yes or no. And, yeah, my computer just died. And we'll just go from there. So, thank you for watching all this. I know this was kind of me rambling about this computer, but I'm finally excited to get so far with it. And just the ability to have a Speeduino with nice automotive grade connectors, nice weather sealed connectors that are nice and easy to snap on, snap off. And they're automotive grade. They're made from TE connectivity. And because most of them so far, I mean, some of them are, like the ones they're doing for the Mazdas and whatnot are automotive grade. They're Mazda plug-and-play units. But nothing's really geared towards the LS. And that is what I'm doing with these units. And I'm excited because, as I said, onboard wideband and everything ready to go. That will be an option. It won't be, if you want to buy off that option, you can. Trying to save some money for people that way, if they don't want the option, they have like an AEM, a Yugo or whatever, and they don't need an onboard wideband, they can get a cheaper version without it, and it's all fine and goodness. But yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait. I'm gonna be posting a bunch of videos of it working and or either good or bad if it's not working, and just post all my R&D on here on YouTube, and once they're good and going and everything, I'm happy with the setup. I've already got my buddy Myron's gonna be putting one in his C10. He already paid me for all the pieces, so all the stuff left in this bag is all the stuff of his. ready to go to build another unit once I test this one to make sure it's good. Once that happens, I've got, I think, 3 other guys right now that are like ready to PayPal me money for the units, and we'll just be kind of going from there. I'd love to get these going, make sure they're all good, get my employees started on them, and start providing these for the LS community and the Speeduino community and whoever else. Because as I said, they're not totally like LS based only computers. So you can run, you could, if you wanted to, this is way overkill, but you could take this and run it on a 1-cylinder Briggs & Stratton and be just fine. So it's very, very versatile in that area. This is like, you know, way overkill for it, but you could do it. So it's very versatile in that regard, and it should be a good time. So hey, thank you all for watching this video. As I said, sorry about the rambling, but I wanted to get some information in, just let you guys know that I am making progress on these things. After, the current plan is get these on, you know, running, working, online for sale, stocked units. Going back on the data logger, I've got a lot of people interested in the data logger. I've learned a lot from this that I'm applying to it. Like the original data logger I made like with a PC, or you know, like a PC connector, like a computer connector, and I hate it. Like at that point I was like, I'm completely done with it. I don't like the way it turned out. So, good thing is I saved all my circuits and everything bench tested okay, so I'm going to apply it to like one of these style connectors, make it more automotive friendly. The G4 sensor is going to come off board and get separated so that way you can mount it in central in the car. And just, I've learned a bunch of stuff from this that I'm going to apply to that. So the data logger is next after the Speeduino is done. After the data logger is finished, I'm hopping back on my AD controller, and it's going to work with that guy right there. So, and Mega Squirts too, for the Mega Squirt guys. But that's, and also as a standalone. So, because I know a lot of guys are like, we need a cheap standalone or foil ADE trans controller. It's like, I am hearing you. I'm one guy. Actually, you know, now that I have an employee that can build these, I can put a lot more time to research and development. So, or employees, I should say. I can build these. I can put a lot more time to research and development. So that's why I'm finally getting progress and getting steam rolling with this stuff and being able to spend time with the S10 and stuff like that. But anyway, if you haven't subscribed, I would please ask you to subscribe if you believe I have earned it. And hit the notification bell if you want notifications on my channel about the videos I post. For the most part, you guys have seen the videos I post. It's normally about S10, you know, it's my S10 build or other automotive builds I've got going on, and the Arduino electronics based stuff for automotive. And I just thank you everyone that has subscribed. I'm shocked I'm over 1,000. It is absolutely a blessing. And just keep on, and hey, thank you very much. Have a good day, and bye.